Hello everybody. This is my first live ever, so I'm just hoping that it's working well and that everything is going according to plan. In this live session, I would like to talk with you about 5 misunderstandings that students often have with the B2 first exam. Now, of course, if you are planning on doing the exam, part of your preparation should be about finding out really what's true and what's false. So in this live lesson, we're going to be looking at, as I said, 5 misunderstandings about the B2 first exam. And if you are watching, please do say hi and let us know where you're watching from. And at the end of this session, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. So the first one that I hear a lot from my students is this idea that the B2 first for schools is actually easier than the regular B2 exam. Well, in fact, this is not true at all. Yes, there are differences with the B2 first for schools and the B2 regular or adult exam, if you like, but the difficulty is exactly the same. They are both B2 level tests. The main difference is, of course, the B2 first for schools has tasks that are more suitable for teenage students. For example, the questions in the speaking exam are more likely to be about school, studies, family, friendship, whereas in the adult exam there may be more questions with regard to hobbies, your opinions, food, for example, things that younger students might not care so much about. In the writing part as well, here is really the biggest difference. In the first for schools, they have an option to write about a text that they're reading. Now, currently, this is Treasure Island, so it's a set text where you would write an essay on the characters or the interaction between the characters or about certain themes or topics within the book. And of course, the reading as well. In the adult test, the texts are more mature topics. They might involve science or not so much current affairs, but lifestyle type stories, whereas in the first for schools, they're more focused toward the interests of younger teenage students, so it might involve sports or activities, that kind of thing. So first, what we're looking at here, the first for schools is easier than the regular B2 first exam. No, that's absolutely false. Okay, so if we go on to the next one, as I said, we're looking at 5 today, so we've looked at 1. Let's look at number 2 now. And this is something that a lot of people often get confused about. The B2 exam, excuse me, the B2 exam, yes, this is technically true. You can get a B2 from the B1 key, meaning if you do very, very well in the lower level exam, you can actually take the B1 exam but get a B2 result. And the same is true for the advanced. If you do approximately 50% or under 60%, instead of getting the C1, you would actually get a B2. Now, I don't advise on taking either of these exams if you really want the B2 level. The main reason, of course, is by taking the B1, you would really have to get great marks to come out with a B2. And likewise in the C1, if you fell below that 50% mark, you would actually get no rating at all, and it would be a waste of money. In fact, the advanced exam is more expensive than the B2 first. It's approximately about euros here in Western Europe. So if you're having any doubts, really I would definitely recommend doing a sample test of a B2 exam, and if you do very well in it, of course you can come out with a C1, but if you don't do so well, then you may also get a B1. But if you're unable to meet the 60% pass mark for the B2 exam, then it's quite a risk, and obviously it's a lot of money as well. So technically this one is true. Okay, on to number 3 now, and this is one of my favorites. I've heard this, I really have heard this from many of my students, that either they've been told by teachers mistakenly, or they've heard it from other students, and that is that during the speaking exam they need to have a British accent. Now, I understand where this idea comes from, because one of the marks that you get in the speaking is for your pronunciation. Now, pronunciation does not mean accent. What it means is being clear in what you say. And by clear, we're talking about the stress of the words, the intonation of your sentences or questions, and that when you speak, it should have a natural flow. It should sound as natural as possible, not like a robot, and not so difficult that the examiner cannot understand what you're saying exactly. So if you do have a very strong regional or local accent, this can affect your mark if it causes problems with understanding for the examiner. But absolutely no, you do not have to speak with a British accent. There are no extra points for speaking with a British accent. What you need to focus on really is clear pronunciation, clear intonation, your word stress, and the rhythm of your language. So for this one, absolute rubbish. No, not true at all. Let's have a look at number 4 now. Number 4 is very similar in a way, and I've heard this, and it shocks me actually. That American spelling is wrong in the B2 first exam. No. Cambridge exams are international. The English language is international. Yes, there are differences between British and American spelling, but American spelling is not wrong. However, what some people may have confused from this idea is that American spelling and British spelling are very confusing, and that in the exam you need to focus on using one. That's correct. You need to be consistent. If you're using American spelling, keep it American. If you're using British spelling, keep it British. In the use of English exam, for example, the word formation, if you take a word and spell it in the American way, it is correct. It is correct. In your essay, using American spelling is correct. The only thing you need to be careful of is mixing between British and American spelling of the same word. So, for example, if you are writing, let's say, about travel, and you refer to yourself as a traveller with a double L, that's the British spelling, and then in the next sentence you, for example, use the same verb but this time in the past with ed, and notice that single L, then that's the American form. So here you're using the noun, here you're using the verb in the past, but traveller with double L is standard UK spelling, and single L in the past or even in the noun traveller would be American spelling. So do not cross between those two. You have to be consistent in that way. So for this one then, American spelling is wrong in the B2 first exam. Well, no, this is also false. Okay, and on to our last one now, number 5. And this is probably one of the most difficult pieces of information to give an answer to, because we're so used to at school taking the exam and dividing our time equally between the questions. But for the reading and use of English paper, which is, remember, it contains 40% of your overall mark. So 20% for the reading, 20% for the use of English. There are a total of 7 tasks in the reading and use of English. So in the time that you have, which is an hour and a quarter, not very long at all, you cannot really divide your time equally, because there are some tasks that will naturally take longer and some tasks that are worth more points. So therefore you're really recommended to spend more time on those. So if we look at the reading and use of English, so there are 4 parts in the first section, the use of English, and then there are 3 parts in the final section. Now, if we separate those. Okay, so obviously in parts 5, 6, and 7, you're going to have to spend more time because it's a lot of reading that you have to do in these parts. But definitely think about where the points are. In parts 1, parts 2, and parts 3, each answer is worth 1 point. Whereas in part 4 of the use of English, the keyword sentence transformations, each of these are worth 2 points. Now this is quite important to know because you have 6 questions and each of those worth 2 points. That's a total of 12 marks, remembering that the whole use of English is worth 36 in total. So part 4 of the use of English is actually worth a third, 33%, of your use of English marks. So of course you should spend more time on those. Likewise, in the reading, parts 5 and part 6, the first 2 reading tasks are also worth 2 points. And then part 7, finally, is worth 1 point per correct answer. So I would definitely spend more time on parts 4 from use of English and 5 and 6 from the reading section. And in fact, I would suggest that you spend certainly half your time just on those 3 parts at least. That's definitely where the points are, and that's where you would really pass or fail, essentially. Okay, so those are the 5 misinformation points that I've heard. I should divide my time equally for the reading and use of English tasks. I'm going to say no for this. Obviously, it is up to each individual student because you are in control of your own time in the exam. So you can, in fact, you don't even need to do them in order. You could actually start with the most difficult reading tasks and then later go back to the first 4 parts for the use of English part. Okay. So as I said, this is my very, very first live. Hello, Emma. Nice to see you watching. I'm not sure if you're still around, but Anyway, this video will be available for the replay, so if anyone does have any questions, please do write them in the comments down below. And if you have also heard some information about the B2 First that you're not sure about, drop those in the comments below and I'll tell you if they are true or false, and hopefully in the next video we can deal with those. So at this point, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me. My channel has only been around now for about 2 or 3 weeks, but certainly it's going great. I'm enjoying making these videos for you, and I'm not sure if I've told anyone this before, but as a teacher of the B2 First exam, I've often been asked by my students for recommendations of YouTube channels to watch, and to be honest, I couldn't find any that I would recommend for students to follow on a regular basis. So I took the decision myself to actually create a channel myself to give my students, those online and face-to-face, the option and the ability to follow in a more informal way some video lessons on YouTube. So again, if you do have any comments about the exam, drop them in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Okay. So bye for now.